You are not a self-improvement project. You are not just this machine that needs to like fix its different parts and become the best, most efficient, well-oiled machine. On the menu today at Sarah's Soju Cafe is White Russian, so grab your mugs and let's talk about let's talk about self-improvement versus self-actualization.
Juices with James.
Welcome back, Soju Shotties, and especially Juicy J's today. This is a very special episode because it is my first episode where I'm solo hosting. I actually took the podcast away from Sarah. It was called a corporate takeover for those of you in the business world. I now own this podcast and you guys are now captive to whatever I have to say. So welcome to the rebranding Juices with James podcast. Thank you. When there's no one else to banter with, it's like I want to laugh, but then there's no one to laugh with. So I just feel awkward, like I'm laughing to myself. Anyways, all jokes aside, I just wanted to do a solo episode this week, give Sarah a bit of a break, and also I just thought it would be a nice platform to just like kind of share my own thoughts about things. Yeah, I don't know why I'm like nervous. My like heart is beating faster, but you know what? Please be nice to me because I think you're going to see during this episode how much Sarah actually carries this podcast, because when I podcast with Sarah, she's obviously like outlined stuff. She's talking through, she's like guiding us through the episode topic. She's moving us on when the topic's kind of like dried, and she's like editing everything. And Sarah is in the apartment, but I told her to like go away because I want privacy and I want to like feel like I am expressing myself without fear of judgment, because this is my first kind of solo podcasting experience. But anyways, I hope you guys are excited for what we're going to talk about today. Before we do get into it, let's introduce the drink of the day, because today this is not soju, and it is true. If you look at the cup, it says not soju. And I'm drinking a White Russian, which is a mix of Kahlua. I think we use tequila. I think it's usually vodka though. And we have oat milk in here. You know what? I think for one, let's just think of this as like two friends talking or something. And I kind of need a drink to be able to kind of freely do that, I feel like. And so let me take my sip. Also, while I'm recording, I don't know if you guys can tell, but this is the lens here, and then this is the like screen that I can see myself on. You know, whenever you're in like a meeting on like Google Meets or like Zoom, you're always just like looking at yourself when you're talking. That's basically gonna be me. So if I'm off to the side, or if my eyes are looking off to the side, just excuse that. I just like to look at myself and make sure I'm looking good. Also, the theme for today's episode is obviously blue. There's like a blue tint to the light, and then I'm wearing blue. I don't know, just a different creative direction to signal that this is a James episode. Okay, before getting into this episode topic, I feel like the disclaimer that we normally do is the same disclaimer that I'm going to give here, because I know we talk on this podcast a lot about our thoughts on things, and I just want to emphasize like we're just two people talking with our own opinions and just like random musings about life that we have. And so if you disagree with us on certain things, like feel free to do that in the comments. Yeah, that's just my quick disclaimer, and then let's get into it. So today I wanted to talk about this never-ending treadmill of self-improvement that we find ourselves on often. And it's extremely topical because like obviously this podcast is a self-help type of podcast. We talk a lot about like how to improve our lives and random kind of philosophies of life or mindset shifts that we're going through. And I feel like for me, it's felt a little fatiguing and tiring to go through life with that type of mindset where you're always just trying to find things to improve about yourself. And I also had these thoughts recently about how this self-improvement journey can actually just be a mask for self-hatred, actually. So I wanted to take you guys through my own self-improvement, self-help journey, because I do feel like a lot of my life, my kind of like mantra, or not mantra, but my like ambitions and the driving force is around like just improving myself. I always want to be the best version of myself. And I know maybe that sounds pretentious, but I also want to talk about why that's actually been somewhat untrue, but also like unhealthy. Like my journey to want to self-improve has actually rooted from a lot of like bad self-esteem and self-confidence issues that I had a long time ago. And so I just want to like shed light on that, and also make this relatable for you guys who are watching this, because I feel like some of you might be experiencing something similar. So basically, I want to take you guys on my self-improvement journey that I've been on. I feel like for most of my life, I feel like I've seen a lot of my life as I need to fix a lot of these issues that I have and just improve. And so I want to talk about how that's been good in some ways, but in a lot of ways it's been rooted in a lot of like negative feelings about myself. And I want to talk about how to reframe that and or how I'm thinking about reframing that. I also want to point out like I've seen some videos about this, and the working title of this is "You Are Not a Self-Improvement Project." And I looked on YouTube. There's been some videos that people have made with that exact title actually, but the ones that I saw came at it from the angle of like very pep talky and consoling. And while I agree with the points that they made, this is not necessarily like a pep talk type of episode. I guess like maybe I'm not the best at pep talks anyways. Like whenever people come to me with problems, well, maybe I am okay at pep talking, but like this episode is not necessarily a pep talk or like a consoling type of episode, but just more like a discussion with more nuance about self-improvement being like toxic versus actually helpful to you. I think a lot of the videos that already exist, which are great and you should check those out, come at it from the angle of you have inherent worth. Under this capitalistic society, we are driven to have to like try to improve our situations in order to live decently, and it's getting harder and harder to do that, right? And so what these creators were saying in those videos was just saying how you are not a self-improvement project. You are not just this machine that needs to like fix its different parts and become the best, most efficient, well-oiled machine it can be. And I totally agree with that. But I think I don't necessarily want to emphasize something like you only need to practice self acceptance and not acknowledge the realities of why people do need to improve on themselves or feel the need to improve themselves. So I want to talk about it from that angle with a bit more nuance, but let's get into it because I think I am rambling a lot. So, okay. So, the motivation behind this episode is that a few months ago, I quit my tech job to transition to making clothes and also, I guess, content creation. You should go watch that video if you haven't already. I think it's called I Quit My Tech Job to Make Pants. But basically, in that video, I talk about my journey from sewing and starting to design clothes all the way to the moments of me quitting the job. And since then, I've been trying to figure out kind of this entrepreneurial creative path. But I'll be honest, it's been difficult. And not that I didn't expect it to be difficult, but I'm definitely not hitting certain milestones that I had set out for myself in the beginning. And when things aren't necessarily going your way, you start to confront a lot of these shortcomings that you have and wonder, what am I lacking or what do I need to improve on to make this work, especially when it's so self-driven. I think when you have a salaried job, it's okay if you're not always on top of your game, if you're for a period of time not necessarily focusing on what shortcomings do I have in this office job. That's okay because you still have a salary and that's not going to ding you too much necessarily. But for me, living off my savings, trying to make it work financially, and also keep growing my social media accounts and actually making money, you start to critically evaluate yourself a lot and just focus a lot on, what am I lacking right now? Is it me? What am I doing wrong? What do these other people have that I do not have? And then you start to try to like figure out those things to improve, because I feel like for a lot of people who identify their problems, the idea is that you want to solve those issues, right, in order to get to where you want to go. So when you're looking at your flaws every day through that lens of like, it's kind of sink or swim if I don't fix these issues and develop consistency, be more creative, be more gritty, when every day you're facing these realities of like, oh, I don't think I'm approaching this creatively enough from a financial standpoint. Like, what products should I be coming out with to be able to like float myself as a entrepreneur? Or, oh, I'm not being like very consistent about the goals that I set out for myself. Why am I not hitting these milestones that I could have achieved if I planned better? I think when you're identifying all these deficiencies day in and day out about yourself that you want to fix in order to actually achieve the goals that you want, you do start to train yourself to only look at yourself as these negative traits. And I realized that when I zoomed out, a lot of my self improvement and self help journey in general in life has actually been rooted in that same type of spirit, where it's like, I need to fix these things about myself and I lack all these things. And in order to be a more normal or whole person, I need to get rid of the deficiencies, and that's the only way that I'm going to solve my problems. So for the majority of my life, I operated on the idea that I'm always trying to get better than I was before. And I think in general, that is obviously a good trait to have. But due to a number of factors, like growing up in a conservative religious environment, pretty much growing up only with white people, and I was like the only Asian kid. I grew up poor around a lot of more upper middle class to rich people, and I always felt more like a black sheep or someone who's not that normal compared to them, and that I needed to like fix different things about myself in order to fit in with them. So from that lens, I think I developed in high school particularly a weird relationship to self-improvement as a means of fitting in slash getting approval from other people, and then ultimately also liking myself more. I remember writing in a journal in high school that I want to become so good that I am undeniable, that I will like myself because I am just so, smart, accomplished, talented, fit. I mean, you can obviously see how that has come to fruition. Just kidding. Yeah, if I built myself up and improved myself so much that how could I not like myself, and how could other people not like me as well? And so recently I've been reflecting about how while I've shed that a lot, I still am kind of victim to that type of mentality. And so I wanted to talk about how the root or the source of your self improvement journey, the reason you want to improve yourself, is really important to explicitly define in your head, because I don't think I have really done that until like recently. I think it's really easy to view self-improvement as just like this definition of like you want to get better, right, as a person, but we need to evaluate also like why do you want so badly to improve as a person? Is it to escape your self-hatred or lack of self-confidence, or is it just to like on a more positive side to become a better version of yourself, a truer version of yourself? Before we get further in, I also just wanted to say again, everyone has inherent value, and we are all worthy of feeling seen and feeling understood by our friends and our partners and our families. I'm definitely not affirming that we need to always improve in order to have value. You already do have inherent value. However, I wanted to, on the flip side, acknowledge that why do we, as a society, as people, feel like we always do need to have self-improvement and improve on things? At the same time, I also want to acknowledge the flip side of this, which is why do we as individuals feel the need to improve all the time? It's because we all do have certain shortcomings or things that we have not developed that we need in order to get where we want to go. For a more crude example, let's say that you are someone who can't argue with your spouse without getting really angry and like punching the wall. Obviously, that is a huge problem, and you need to like improve yourself with that and like go to therapy, right? I think it's a little reductive if we say like practice unconditional self-acceptance and not acknowledge that there are a lot of, failures that we have as people or shortcomings that we have as people for whatever reasons, that it is good to fix those things. It is a good idea that you should try to become a better version of yourself. As another example, like if your parents never really taught you proper social etiquette and you're having a hard time at the office and you're not really succeeding because you don't know how to properly behave around people, then like obviously you should probably develop proper social etiquette in those situations in order to succeed as an employee and make your money and support your family, right? So especially for people who grow up with these like childhood traumas that they feel like they're trying to get over still, or they're just trying to like even just get back up to speed with what a normal person should be like, and it feels like an uphill battle for the rest of their lives basically, I think it can feel really hopeless, and it's really easy to like make yourself feel bad about it. I wanted to talk about reframing that kind of like toxic self-improvement mindset and turn it into a mindset of self-actualization. And that's basically the thesis of this episode, is this idea of toxic self-improvement versus self-actualization. So self-actualization is this term that was popularized by Abraham Maslow, and you've probably heard of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. It's like this pyramid, and it's, the base level is like the base level needs that a human has, and at the top, once you fulfilled like each tier of need for yourself as a person, the top tier is self-actualization. So I wanted to talk about that. So I'm going to be reading off the screen here, and I'm paraphrasing, but Maslow says that self-actualization is the growth of what is already inherent to you as a person, and that self-actualization is growth motivated rather than deficiency motivated. It's not a focus on getting rid of your deficiencies, but just to grow into the truest version of who you are innately. And so what I'm getting at is I think the focal point of your self-improvement journey matters a lot. With this framing of like self-actualization that Maslow has, it's more about becoming the truest version and the best version of who you already are innately, rather than focusing on your deficiencies and trying to like fix yourself out of this, self-hatred or lack lacking that you feel in society. And so I've been reflecting on this a lot actually recently because of me trying to make it work as a freelancer. Like I mentioned earlier, there feels like there's so many different things that I'm not currently having or possessing as a person that I need to develop. As an example, I listed these down. So again, I'm going to read off the screen because I'm not as good of a podcaster as Sarah, but I'll just give you two examples, things that I am not as happy about with myself that I want to improve. The first is that I am not super organized. I am really bad at keeping lists of everything I should get done and then prioritizing what the most important ones are and what I realistically have time for. So a lot of the things that I do day to day, I feel like some things slip through the cracks and I like just neglect to do them. And I tend to not very explicitly prioritize in my head the trade-offs between this project or this task or that task. Instead, I kind of just do the one that I think of that day. And I obviously do work hard, but it's like I don't choose the smart one. I just choose whatever is in my brain. So I don't like keep a good organizational flow for myself. Anyways, so the second one, when I set self-imposed deadlines, I don't plan in a way where I ensure that I will hit those deadlines. So if I'm working for someone else, I definitely hit the deadlines, right? It's like if someone else is involved, I respect their time a lot. But when it comes to me, I'm not rigid enough on making sure I hit my personal milestones. And I end up getting upset when it's like a few months later and then I just don't have the milestones completed or there's not enough progress on them. And it's just also like, okay, why am I taking other people seriously, but then I don't respect myself enough to like stick to the goals that I set for myself? So these are obviously things that I should improve on. But I feel like I have been framing it in a way where I'm like, woe is me. Like, why am I so bad at these things? Why has it been hampering me? Why haven't I been able to improve it? Oh, this probably like means that I can't be a successful entrepreneur and like I need to fix it now or I'm not going to be a successful entrepreneur or a successful creative or freelancer or whatever title, right? But like I think that is also I'm going to keep using buzzwords, I feel like, but that's also related to like kind of a scarcity mindset too and like a fear-based motivation rather than a growth-based motivation. It's like fear that if I don't plug these holes that I'm just gonna like sink. It's that rather than a more like objective mindset, I guess. And what I'm trying to say is that I approach it from the opposite of what Maslow defines self-actualization as. I don't know if you're like a philosophy major or a philosophy nerd. Maybe you're like, oh, Maslow's philosophy sucks. Here's why this other thing works. But I do find myself subscribing naturally more to that self-actualization type of like model for fulfillment. And like he said, your self-actualization and your mission in life should not be to fix your deficiencies. It should be to grow into the best version of who you already are innately. Also, it's like really trippy doing this type of format because I haven't done this before and this is something that Sarah does, but it actually reminds me of like my dad as a pastor because like what you do as a pastor is essentially you like kind of come up with your own lessons. Like it's obviously rooted in the Bible and like what you're studying and what you think the congregation should hear. But like you always like as a pastor, they usually weave in their lives or whatever's going on in society and they make commentary about certain things and then they give the teaching. And I feel like I'm almost giving a sermon, so it feels kind of weird. Anyways, I don't know, that's just a random cut in, but I kind of described like this mindset shift, right? How do you actually shift your mindset away from self-improvement and towards self-actualization?
Hello. It's a tight squeeze.
It's a tight squeeze today, and we bring you this interruption because we have your host back here, and I'm sure you guys are super glad to be escaping from my sermon about what I'm talking about for our host, Sarah. Woo!
Woo!
Anything you want to say?
I missed you guys.
They missed you too.
How is filming without me?
It was awkward. It was hard, but I hope I said something that I hope it came out the way I meant it when I wrote it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without me, James doesn't have his Disney Channel background backtrack, laughing track.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the one in the background like, woo! And like,
yeah.
ha 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 ha.
Yeah. No, I was like, okay, we're filming the intermission after I technically finished filming the rest of the episode.
He's been filming for like 2 hours.
Yeah. I felt really awkward because I was trying to say I was planning on saying stuff that was like entertaining or funny, but midway through it, I just kind of forgot about all that. And I was just kind of like, I hope I'm saying this stuff right.
You get stressed out really easy when you're talking to yourself for like 2 hours.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
When you edit the footage, it's going to be like a ton of like, oh, I don't like how I said that. And then I sit there for 3 minutes. I'm like, okay, let me say it again.
We should throw in a little clip of that.
At the same time, I do also want to acknowledge God, dude. It's because. Why is it because? Or maybe not. Maybe not. Today's intermission. Today we have an intermission. Go ahead.
He's traumatized. For Juices with Sarah today.
No, it's Soju with Sarah. And today's episode was Juices with James.
Oh, you did a full rebrand.
I did, yeah.
Bro, gives him one episode and I come back to the podcast looking like this. Today, we are bringing back intermission snacks. Woo!
Ooh.
Today, we have herbal jelly. It's an herbal jelly mix and you actually have to mix things together. It comes with a syrup and a creamer and something else in here. So let's open it up.
Let's get to it. Wow, that was really tough. We had one of these in the past and they're very, very difficult to open. What is this? Herbal jelly? Yum.
Okay. So the first step is you add the creamer and then you add the syrup. As you can see, this doesn't look as appetizing as the photo. The photo makes it look really appetizing. Shall I remind you of the photo? For those of you on audio, this is basically just a black jelly with a little bit of coconut creamer on it and some syrup.
Yum. If I have you, I have the whole universe. Can I have your WhatsApp? Excuse me. You dropped your iPhone 16 Pro Max.
If no one is on that side of TikTok, I don't think they'll understand what's going on.
Hongdae boys represent. Oh, I spilled some.
This looks really unappetizing. I will put this close to the camera for you guys to see. And cheers.
And the cheers.
For intermission today, I didn't want to make it very serious because James already made it very, very serious. Oh, that's just me from like a year ago.
She's been
Isn't that
looking
crazy?
at pictures of herself from a year ago and comparing her face. Yeah.
Lots changed. Okay, today's intermission, we are reading people's favorite fruits because the last episode we asked you guys what your favorite fruit is. So,
Riveting.
what's your favorite fruit?
Strawberries. I love strawberries.
Chai Blue HJ said, before you said this, I was thinking about what my favorite fruit is and how I really like kiwis. Cry face.
Oh, because you said you don't like kiwis?
Yeah,
Or you're
last
questionable
time.
on them?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, you offended them.
I'm so sorry. It's not that I don't like them. It's just that they're so hard to know if they're going to be good that day.
Yeah.
Right? Like kiwis are really sour sometimes.
Isn't that Sour Patch Kids?
That's not what.
First they're sour, then they're
sweet.
Olivia Oliver 8415 says, I adore pomegranate.
Ooh. I always forget pomegranate's a valid fruit.
It's kind of a dope name if there wasn't a fruit name.
Pomegranate?
Yeah, if you named your kid like Pomegranate.
Pomegranate
And
pan.
you'd call him Nate.
Oh, pomegranate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Are we going to read all of these?
Wait, only a few of them have fruits. Samantha Nori 2103 says 100% a berry girl. I'm also a berry girl. I said that my earlier favorite fruits were blueberries and other berries, so
Very good.
oh.
I'm going to lump the next. Can I say the next three?
Sure.
Hardcore Roar X says, pineapple is my go-to fruit.
Ooh.
I like pineapple.
You know, you should wash your pineapples with salt so that they don't burn your tongue because the enzymes in the pineapple, they eat at your tongue. So if you eat too much pineapple, your tongue's going to be tingly and you can countervent that with counteract that.
Prevent and counteract.
Yeah, countervent.
That's great.
You can counteract it by rinsing it in salt water.
Patapatry 21 says, apple is my favorite fruit. An apple a day keeps the doctor away, but if the nurse is cute, forget the fruit.
That's a good one.
I've
That's
never
funny.
heard that before.
I haven't.
I don't really think. Okay. How'd you say that name? Is it Lania?
Lonnie
Lania?
Lonnie.
Lania?
We're butchering your name. I'm so sorry.
Lania Dion. I'm gonna say that.
That's a cool name. If it's just what if it's her first name? Lania Dion.
Golden kiwi is sweet. What is a golden kiwi?
Oh, it's the kiwi where it's not green on the inside. It's actually yellow. Ah,
I didn't know
that's good to
those
know.
existed.
Now
And
that I think of it, I do think I like every time I enjoy kiwi, it's the golden type. So I guess it's
I don't
fun.
think I've had enough kiwis. Anyways, hope you guys really enjoyed our riveting discussion of fruits. Or not really discussion, we just talked. We just read the comments. Okay, so now that we've actually talked about kind of the toxic mindset you can have with self-improvement and reframing it to self-actualization, how do you actually do that? It's easy to say these concepts, but then day to day, how do you kind of escape this crushing reality where you feel like, oh, I do have these real issues in my life I have these things that I feel like I need to improve on myself in order to get to my goals. How do I stop seeing that as like deficiencies that I need to plug and more as just like things that I need to figure out in order to get to like the truest version of myself? That sounds very like lofty and fluffy, right? And I was thinking about this while kind of writing down my outline for this episode. And honestly, I don't have a good answer. And I wish I did have like a silver bullet type of answer. But I do think it's like a very gradual mindset shift that needs to happen. And this is something that I am currently working on for myself. The goal is really just to figure out who am I and how do I become and fulfill the truest version of myself. It's not like you can just study yourself right now and then be like, oh yeah, I'm exactly this type of person with these wants and these goals, and this is exactly what I want out of life. Like no one really ever knows that. All you can do is just try to figure it out. And I think that's really the key, is to let yourself experiment and reframe things that you do. I think seeing your life more like an experiment or answering hypotheses that you have about yourself to learn more about yourself and figure out what it is that you really want out of life. I guess one example is, let's say you're pursuing a certain path, like a certain type of degree or a career path, and you kind of realize that as much as you wanted to succeed in this thing, you're really like not that good at it. You're not really like that talented at it, or something is just about it is just not working out for you. Under the model that I've been operating on, I probably would be like, oh, I'm like so bad at this. Why am I so bad? I feel like this is something that a lot of other people don't struggle with. Why am I struggling with it? And let me try to figure out how I can fix this issue about myself in order to achieve this goal. That's probably how I would have thought about it in the past, but it's more about, if that happens, I think you can make your peace with being like, oh, I just learned that I'm actually really bad at the thing that is required to be in that career or that degree. And when you move away from deficiency and comparison with other people and like fixing yourself and feeling like you're not enough versus other people, it just becomes like, okay, that's not me then, or that career path is not really compatible with me, and it's totally okay because I did give it a fair shot. I tried my best and I realized like that is not really suited for me, and let me go try something else and test this other hypothesis. And I think eventually by doing that in life, like you will find the things that you are good at and the things that fulfill who you are innately. But yeah, in general, I think if you are someone who tends to engage with self-improvement from a deficiency focused mindset, I do think it will be a lot of gradual working on yourself and noticing thought patterns that you have and catching them before you're able to kind of like shift over to a kind of a more healthy relationship to self-improvement. And I'm like, this is obviously like very fresh reflections for me as well. And I'm curious about if you guys feel this way, have felt this way, if you disagree with what I'm saying. But I hope this discussion, this monologue, I should say, because I've just been talking on a camera, is at least helpful to you guys as food for thought about how you guys think about your own journey with advancing yourself in life with whatever goals that you have. I also want to emphasize again, like when I say things like there are things that you always need to improve about yourself, it's not from the standpoint of you need to care about success or ambition with your career. It could just be like you need to improve things about yourself in order to be a good family man because that's what you really value, or like whatever activities you're involved in the community, and you notice that you're not really serving the community in the right way because, you know, maybe you lack something. That's more about that. It's like not about how you need to always improve yourself in a capitalistic sense. So just wanted to make that clear as well. Anyways, thank you for listening to me through my nervous ramblings. This is definitely something that has been weighing on me for some time, at least the last few months. So I think it feels at least good for me to vocalize it. And in doing this outline and now like talking to you guys about it, I think it actually did help me formulate my thoughts around it. I just realized there's a problem that I was thinking all this time about. I'm not enough. Why don't I feel like I'm enough? I always feel like I'm having to rationalize or justify who I am to myself. I think for me, this is like a first step towards having a healthier mindset with it. And, you know, if you guys feel similarly, I would love to hear about it as well. Before I go, I wanted to give 3 recommendations for you guys. It's 2 movies and then 1 book that I think could be useful. The first 2 films actually have pretty much nothing to do with this episode topic, but they're ones that I really enjoyed watching, so I thought it'd be cool to share it with you guys, and if you guys have time, you know, go watch them. The first movie is called Like Father, Like Son, and it's a Japanese film by one of my favorite directors. His name is Koreeda, and I know I butchered that in English. He has a lot of really good films about family dynamics, and a lot of like class-based commentary, as well as I think like a lot of Japanese and Korean films do a lot of like class-based commentary. The basic premise of Like Father, Like Son is that there are two families. One is a richer family and then the other is a lower income family. And the premise is that they have the same age kids and they were switched at birth. These two families are called by the hospital and told about this mistake, and they're like, your kids were switched at birth, and they have this option to switch the children between the families. And so they were raising these kids as their own, but then they realized they're not my biological kids, so they switched them to the other families. And it just is basically a movie where it kind of shows that unravel. I just thought it was like a really interesting commentary on what is family truly, and there's an interesting distinction between the two like economic classes highlighted there. So I thought it was a really good movie. You should also check out the rest of his filmography, Koreeda, because I think he has a lot of really good movies. So that is one recommendation. The second recommendation is a Brazilian movie, and I am not that familiar with Brazilian cinema, but I think this is probably the most internationally famous one. It's called City of God. City of God is a movie that impacted me a lot in high school just because it left a big impression on me because it was such a well-made movie. It's a coming-of-age movie about a kid growing up in, I think, like the favelas in Rio de Janeiro. There's a lot of violence in this era at the time. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's like this kid who's among all this like gang violence, and he's caught in the middle. He has friends who are in these gangs, but he's not in the gang himself. He takes photographs of people, and it's kind of him chronicling his journey growing up in these favelas. That one is just I think it just opened my eyes to like what film could be, and it told a really good story. And also most of the actors in it never acted before, so they were just like local people that acted in the film. So I thought that was cool. And then the third recommendation is a book recommendation, and it is more related to the episode topic. And the book is called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. This is a book that I read graduating high school, going into college. And the author basically is this Jewish man who lived through the concentration camps in World War II. He details all these like horrible things that he had to live through in these concentration camps. And he talks about how he's still able to find fulfillment and meaning and happiness after experiencing such harrowing things. I think it's just like a very interesting read, especially for people like me and probably most of you who have not experienced anywhere near such a tragedy in their lives. And he just talks about finding fulfillment and finding meaning despite terrible situations in life. And I think it's just like an interesting read that will make you think. So I myself probably need to revisit that one because it's been a while since I read it, but I think it's just an interesting book to put on your radar. Okay, so I think that's it for the episode. I honestly felt pretty awkward filming it. I don't know how good it came out, but I hope you guys at least got something out of it. Next week, you will be back to your better podcast host, and I will probably be co-hosting that with her. So I know this is like a very different vibe because with Sarah, I have a very different talking demeanor. And on my Instagram, I also talk really rigid, honestly. And I'm trying to work on that too on my own pages to just be more natural and be more myself. So this is me trying to be more myself, but also eloquent and prepared. And yeah, I guess I'll see how it turned out. Anyways, enough rambling. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bloopers.
It's bloopers.
If I have you, I have the whole universe. Can I get your WhatsApp? How's that? Put it in my iPhone 16 Pro Max. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. Oh, solo podcasting is hard. Okay. Why? Okay. At the same time, I also want to acknowledge the flips. HR has to talk to you because you're being odd, not being odd.
A little bit awkward here.
If you budge an inch, he'll take a, what's it called? What's the saying?
I don't know.
If you give him an inch, he'll take a
mile.
Sure.
My mom says like if you give him an inch, he'll take a foot. Like he'll take
same idea.
He'll take
I think
things
it's the same thing,
more. Yeah, he'll take things further
Same
than
thing.
you give him because you were kind.
That's a great saying.